All right. So the next portfolio is Johannes. So Johannes is not in a call, of course, from what you're gathering. It's just me talking. So I'm just going to talk about all the little kind of things that I like to hit on for making a strong portfolio and just kind of how to push yourself forward. So Johannes was a student, nice, in Sweden, very good. I don't know what you're interested in based off of the title up here, so that it might be worth saying, like, I don't know, like it's cool to say that it's fine that you say you're a student. Maybe in brackets on the side you could say like what you want to do, or like what you do on servers, or maybe like what you do in the Empire server, for example, is like you could say what your role is or what you like to do, and then in brackets put student next to it, right? So that could be really good, because then it immediately we see, okay, let's say, all right, he wants to be an environment artist, right? And then you see student next to it, and then it gives you a little bit of an understanding of like where you're at in your education, which is kind of tough to say as well, because like are you where you're at in your education if it says student? Because you can learn now before being a student. So like, yeah, environment artist, and then brackets to the side of it, student or something. It's not a you need to or anything like that. And student is fine. It's just then I don't necessarily know what you want to be, unless maybe it says in here in your about. You have some basic programming knowledge, which means you have more than me. Going in a technical art role, spend some time creating full environments. So I'm not sure if I want to label. Okay. So there's a little bit of unsureness. This is good, though, that you're describing it in here. Tech artist rather than environment artist, though I never regret that I choose to study programming. So one thing that's really good to know is don't be afraid. Melissa talking about mushrooms. Yes, Melissa. Don't be afraid to pick one. It's not like you'll miss out on the other one, right? So let's say you pick tech art, and then maybe you're a tech artist for a project. So 2-3 years, you're a tech artist. Oh no, Olamed's relating to your description, your summary of your about page. But you be a tech artist for a project. Maybe while you're doing that and you're at home, you're pushing on your environment art skills, and then you find out like, oh, I don't really want to be a tech artist. I want to be an environmental artist. And either at that company or the next company you go to, you can transition. Nar says once you go tech art, you don't go back. I mean, some studios are going to be flexible, some maybe not. It depends on like the situation, but don't think that if you pick one that you're locked in for too long in the other. Like especially if your art skills are really really good and you're a tech artist, and then you say that you want to transition, right? You want to transition into an environment art role or an environment artist role. But you've been a tech artist for so long, your art skills and your understanding of the tech art side of it within that company might make it easier for you to switch. Whereas like if your art is pretty good, but they don't consider you, like say you've been a tech artist for 8 years, and then you're like, oh, I want to be an environment artist now, but you don't have any environment art experience. If the quality isn't, it all depends on the studio is basically I think what I'm trying to say. But don't get caught up on like picking one and regretting a decision, or like thinking that you're locked in. It's not necessarily the case. And more often than not, I would say whatever happens, it's like maybe you're tech art and then you become a senior tech artist, but then you want to become an environment artist. Maybe that brings you down to a mid-level or just an environment artist. You drop the senior title. You work on that for a little bit, and then you progress. Maybe in the next year during review, they'll be like, all right, you're good enough. You're good enough to be senior. You're showing those attributes of being a senior environment artist, and then you're back to where you were, but you've switched titles. Anyways, quite long-winded. Yeah. Your portfolio has actually quite a good size to it right now. If you were environment art, I mean, if we mouse over these real quick and just look at the at what they are, because sometimes it'll say, okay, so this is an environment diorama. This is prop creation. This one says 8-week game, so this is a group project. This is good. You've named the people that are also in here. If they ever have a art station and you at the very end you put their art station link, it will actually create a hyperlink for them. But the hyperlink is pretty. It's nice. It just looks good. It looks really good being here. So keep that in mind. I have developed a game. The art department consisted of me, so I was the art department. Credits shared with them. Responsible tech. So you were responsible for the tech art, lighting, and some level design. Nice. So it's very indie vibes going in, or like game jam. Cool. I should probably. I mean, I was looking at this yesterday. Oh, there's. Oh ho. Let's see here. Just kind of skim through this a little bit. So it looks like it's a first person. Aha. Nice. It's simple, but I mean, the fact that you've got a playable experience with some game features in it's really cool. Very cool. Oh man, I hope you don't have to collect each one of those stairs. That'd be super rough, because that's what you taught me through that video was, okay, I have to collect stones. Wait, this stairwell is 40 stones? Oh my god. Looks cool though. It looks really cool. I won't scroll through the whole thing, but yeah. For an 8-week project with 3 people, it looks like. That's pretty hardcore. Looking at your prop skills. Ooh, we got interactive as well. Ooh. Let's see here. Oh yeah, look at that resolution. Dang, dude. This looks cool. I actually really like the like what would be leather kind of feels like it's wood. It could still be leather. Nah, this is leather on the side here. Oh, dang, and the little vials too. Oh man, this is cool. Oh yeah, watch out for the Z fighting. I think that's Z fighting on the glass. Just got to give it a little bit of space. But this style is really cool, and I really like your approach with the papers off the side there, because it looks like you've done a solid core that's got some wobble to it, and then a few cards with a few extra cuts to kind of break up the edges and stuff. Yeah, man, this looks awesome. This looks really cool. Oh, dude. Yeah, that's rad. This looks really good. And then having this clasp thing here as like a metal material is really good for getting that variation or breakup in your roughness. Even these guys here, adding that. Super cool. Let's continue through this. Let's see what else you were saying in here. So environment, prop art, possibly tech, since I like to work with shaders in Niagara. I mean, tech art in production tends to be much more at least in my experiences, and we've got some tech artists in chat if they want to say anything, but they're mainly getting into things like how the shaders are built, making sure that artists are building the content correctly, that way we don't melt a console, and that it's a playable experience, and there's any like problems that they can stop before they spin out of control. Also very elegant solutions to things like, oh, how do we do this? And then they're like, oh, we'll build a whole workflow for how you will approach propping this asset, or how to put snow across an entire huge open world, and how do we make that happen? But yeah, so if that stuff interests you, because Niagara, I guess, would be more along the lines, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think Niagara is going to be much more about making VFX. which from what I can see in the most recent, um, the recent developments I've seen in, well, even just in the whole time I've been in games, VFX seems to be a role. Uh, oh, Nars is saying, so Nars, Nars is a tech artist. He's in chat. He says VFX can be a part of tech art in some studios. So that's good to know. But yeah, it does vary, I guess, based on the studio size. But anyways, what I want to say was the VFX is actually quite high in demand, and there doesn't seem to be very many VFX artists. And I think a lot of that might have to do with the way that education is currently structured. So a lot of interns coming in are wanting to be character artists, concept artists, or props artists, environment artists, right? There's not really any channels in schools, from what I can see, at least traditional schools, where they're teaching VFX as like a main role, right? So I think there's some room to kind of expand into that quite nicely. And then you would be working with tech art pretty closely as well, I would assume, no matter the size of the studio. But yeah, I mean, when I look at these, they look pretty good. I remember we critiqued this one on stream. This one's pretty gnarly, um, and it was more about like toning down the noise and trying to figure out what to do to make the scene less noisy, so you can focus on the center area here. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with the grass, and like see how dark it is under the grass. If the bottom of the grass blades matched that and then gradiented to this lighter value that you have, I think it would actually come off a bit more um, easier on the eyes. There's like also a lot of ambient occlusion going on in there, so maybe if the grass wasn't casting shadow, but that could be a stylistic choice as well. I think that's what I would do in order to push this a little bit further. Your thumbnails, um, your thumbnails are okay. This one's really strong. This one's pretty good. This one is all right, but the background kind of separates it from the rest of the portfolio. So you want to think about all of your thumbnails as like one kind of group of images, even though they're separate scenes and whatnot. You have to be putting them next to each other, and that, I think that's what makes it so gratifying to look at substance, like material artists' portfolios, is because every thumbnail is predictable, right? Which is not a bad thing. That can be a good thing, right? Each thumbnail is a sphere, and then you're really appreciating just the material on the sphere, right? The power, yes, Tobias, the power of the balls. So like if the background of this was more in line with the values and tones or color that you're seeing in the other thumbnails, it would really like bring it back forward. And I know it's kind of like, how would I know to do that if this was made a year ago and then this one was made like last month, for example? And it's more about like if you need to, I would totally save. I would be building your thumbnails with everything kind of separated out. That way you can change the colors in the background if you want to. So just think about being able to unify your thumbnails a bit more. And I think this one maybe needs to be framed up a little bit more. It feels like it's for sure this branch here, or this arm piece is coming out, which is putting a lot of weight on this side. So the center is more around here. And if you center this up, then all of it would shift over it just to get a little bit more space. Usually I just look at the space here and the space here and just try and equal those out if you're centering something. Yeah, let's see what else we're looking at here. When it comes to like where your strengths are, you seem to be capturing the mood quite well in all of your work. Look at these mushrooms. Those are beastly. Melissa would be proud. Well, Melissa is proud. I can feel it already in chat. But I really like that you're capturing this feeling. Oh, what's going on here? Of like scale, and it looks like you're trying to tell a story, which is really cool. And the cameras are the cameras kind of flying through the environment. I think pushing this door open and letting you like kind of fly through it would really kind of push the quality up just a little bit more. Think about contact shadows where possible, and I guess if you can do baked lighting, it seems like right now it might not be baked lighting. The shadows are quite sharp, and then you're not getting your nooks and crannies where like it's getting pretty dark back there, but here it's very lit, right? And you're getting a lot of light bleed under here, whereas like I guess you would expect that to be quite under in shadow. Yeah, maybe it's just where the lights are placed or their strength. But keep that in mind. And then also when you're looking at lights like this, the profile at which the light casts and the shape that the light source is creating. Every light source tends to have its own shape. Oh man, this is hard to figure out. This up here, so that where the wall meets the ceiling can be quite difficult. I think just framing it off with like a wood edge similar to this, and then letting that be angular above it could help. Just because it's so harsh on how it cuts. Oh man, this area is cool. Yeah, this looks. I mean, in general, it looks really, really nice. It's got quite a bit of a style to it. It's I think looking at your materials, this material here feels a little half done. So making sure that you're pushing that gives it that extra fidelity that you're implying with all of this stuff here. Like you're seeing all of this detail, and then this becomes quite soft by comparison. And then watching your textile density, like if you see the wall here and the ceiling here, those are definitely different resolutions, right? And I think that might be because the roof is a baked material. Keep in mind, we don't see much of the ceiling. So you could technically make a tileable of this type of pattern, like a left to right tileable, and then keep the resolution quite high for that and not really have to explain that it's possibly like a larger bake for the underside of that. So you could just UV it to that and not even worry about the fact that the top looks weird because you never look up there. You guys are sharing links in chat. That's good. Some Niagara tutorial stuff. But I mean, this all looks pretty cool. The light that's glowing from this, keep in mind with the color that you have coming through here, this should be quite saturated, I would imagine. But looking at your work, I think, oh man, I hate how it, there you go. I've learned that if you scroll down and then come back up, the overlay on top goes away. Yeah, looking at your scenes, you're starting to mix a little bit of a stylized look with some more realistic shapes. So watch out for like pushing that too far. Also, I think the way the snow is on the trees is interesting, and it's more about the thing that's sticking out to me with the trees is understanding where the snow should be on them, right? So if it's like the top, it feels strange that every single one of the tops is free or a little like snowless. Muck in chat says that he would like some cuts in the camera work. Yeah, I agree with that. When it comes to camera work, just kind of talk on that for a little bit. Let me see where this starts. So your camera's already moving when the video starts, so that's really good. Maybe fading from a black background or a white background could be good while the camera's already moving. And then cutting to like, usually when you change direction, like see now you start to pull back here, you are smooth in those motions, so that's really good. It's more about like when you change direction like that, it almost needs to feel like, okay, if you're changing direction, we might as well make that a different camera, right? Because having it one smooth transition that just goes into the next smooth transition, you get a jarring feel, or like you feel off. It feels foreign or strange, the way the camera work is happening. I think a lot of movies are a lot of movies. I would say movies in general. Just look at movies and see how they cut for very like serene, calm, like showing a space before the character enters the scene. Those are usually like an establishing shot, for example. But yeah, just kind of scroll through this. I do like what you're doing with the rooftop and all the details there. I think where the snow, like thinking about the logic of your materials would be really important. So your snow is quite thin in general, and your normals in your snow is quite strong. So thinking about your snow as something where the light really diffuses through it, right? Your normals are going to soften up quite a bit. So it might be more of a pushing like either the transmission so that the ambient kind of fills the normal detail, or really toning down the normal information and letting the snow just kind of glow, right? But then thinking about the logic of each of your materials, going back to snow, where it's building up on the roof, maybe down here near the edge, you would have, this is like a great opportunity for this straight line here to be kind of covered with like a geometry edge of snow, right? And then also where the snow is showing this pattern, maybe that pattern starts to go away, maybe right around here. So you just get this feeling of the buildup of snow as it's going down the edge of the roof. It's just thinking about those little extra details. Like I can see there's snow here, at least from like the shader placing it there, because you're telling it, I assume, to place it on the Z. So if you can also place snow meshes in those areas to just kind of break up those straight edges, it's going to really push your environments that much further. A lot of the stuff is pretty, I would say it's pretty basic in its modeling. Like you have the fidelity and the details where you want them, and it's just about executing the where you're seeing the edges of geometry and trying to break the visuals of it being geometry, right? So if this edge you have to do something with this edge basically to get it away from me going, oh, that's just an extruded plane with some cuts that's curving. If you can find a way to break away from that, that would be huge. Some bolder lighting would do well. It's being said in chat again by Muck. You really like the banners, Lensen. So the banners are pretty cool. They feel, maybe design-wise, it makes sense that they're short like this. I think if there was a way to expose like in the alpha of the banner for where it cuts, if that alpha had more of a gradient in it, then you can use like a exposed slider to scale or change the amount of damage, or even vertex painting, so that way they don't look identical. That will go pretty far, I think, as well. Try to see if there's anything else I can point out on that. This is your most recent. It's a month ago. Man, this one makes me happy. This one looks cool. I like the attention to detail that you have in there. This one shows to me that you understand how to make something look interesting, and you're executing it in a way where it looks good, right? This metal might be. I have to go to Sketchfab to see this, don't I? Let's see here. I just want to see the textures. You look at the base color. Yeah, that's like a gold. Yeah, the metal. Okay, so this is why it was looking weird to me. So if this is going to be metal, it's pretty clean as well when you look at it here, minus where the moss type stuff is. Which, man, that's some resolution. I tell you what. Oh my gosh, look at that raid. Hey, how you guys doing? We're going through a portfolio review right now and learning about Black Friday sales. We can kill that. So when you go to the metalness, this just needs to be white. And then you just make it black where the moss is, and just let the mipping and the shader figure it out. That sale, though. How you guys doing? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only thing that's kind of throwing me off with this. Is there any other metal in this scene? There's a little bit. Yeah, so all of these should just be white. So your metalness should usually just be black or white. There are some very rare cases, and you let tech art tell you otherwise. Just because it's safer that way. Mainly because it depends on the engine that you're working in, or the game that you're working on, and the style and all that stuff. But if there were any other metal elements that you could add to something, like if these were metal, if this top piece was metal, and then that maintained the cork look that you've got going on there, man, that's so cool. Yeah, if this was metal, that would be, you get a nice little hit of detail down there, because you can see how much it's already doing for these. So it's just a matter of making sure that it's actually metal. And then, yeah, this is super high res Exile, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine for this to be high res, because it's more of an art piece, more so than like this would be in a game. This might be like a 1024 or 2048 if it was like first person and it was in the character's hand and it was like a book that the character always opened and like would scroll through and whatnot. I say scroll through. It was turning pages like this. What's happening to my brain? Yeah, I think it's more about understanding your materials and working towards more complex geometry to the point where we don't go, oh, okay, that's this thing. Like for example, like you can see it's clipping here, right? And it's clipping on this one as well. Those shouldn't clip, because in real life they wouldn't, right? So maybe you just put them next to each other, and then adding rope or however those are put together or held together, that would add that extra layer of detail up there. And maybe it's not rope. Maybe the way they're built together, maybe it is like that, and I don't know. It depends if you're looking at reference or not. But right now, I what I see is clipping, and clipping is weird. Don't do it. Don't do that clipping. At least not noticeable. Oh, look at this. So this must be your trim sheet. Man, that's awesome. Yeah, so you've got your wood, and then this is like a larger piece of wood, some stone, and then some trim details. Those are being used here. I think when I scroll down and I see how this is all broken and chipped, this is telling me that it's stone. And up here, that's not stone, right? That's like a wood carving material. So try and stay consistent with the materials, whether it be sculpting, well, across the board. Like if it's sculpted as a wood material, then it should be wood, right? I mean, maybe it is stone, but I'm almost positive that's supposed to be a wood material. See, there's details like this too, where this board is behind these ones. Maybe there should be like little tiny, like a single, either rivet or bolt or whatever. Rivet. This time period. I don't think that's a. Anyways, one or two, something like that. I think when you look at reference, that's how you're going to get those answers. Yeah. This is overall, your portfolio is pretty good, especially for a student. And I think it's more about focusing on the quality of the execution, maintaining textile density, getting the rest of your work to, like these two scenes. There's a few things to fix on this one, but like these two are very strong. This one is very ambitious, but these two are super strong. And I think getting things closer to, like, if you could make an environment that has this type of this feeling and fidelity, you're going to be in a really nice spot. If you're wondering how you would do the resolution of the moss on here, without having to go super high res, I would suggest making a moss tileable material and then making a mask that will expose where that moss becomes visible. Because then you can tile that moss material as much as you want, and it's more about the resolution of the mask, not so much the resolution of the overall baked texture. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else I can. I think that's it. Where would you insert such masks in, say, Unreal? You would use, so let's say that this is a color, like this tile here is one color, and this tile is another color. you would plug them into a lerp node, and then you would input your mask at the bottom of that lerp node. There should be 3 inputs. Yeah, hopefully, I don't know if you're in chat, but hopefully this was useful for you. And it looks like our material blends. Yeah, basically. We've covered that in another stream as well. Thanks for posting your portfolio, man. I'm gonna hop over to the next one.